Most Germans do not even have lederhosen. You will see lederhosen in Bavaria and smaller towns on the weekends in the summer. Except for special events, true, Germans do not wear lederhosen anymore. You will also see lederhosen worn especially by older men at random times throughout the year, no occasion needed. No sensible person in Bavaria would ever wear that kind of gear. So do Germans wear lederhosen or not? Hey guys, and welcome back to our channel. I am Donnie.
And I'm Aubrey.
And we are two Americans currently living in Germany and sharing all of our experiences living and traveling throughout Europe. Except today, this is just a hologram. Aubrey's not able to join us for this episode, so you just got me, old Donnie guy. If you've been keeping up with our channel, then you have seen that we have been spending some time in Germany's most famous state and the one that everybody outside of Germany assumes is the most authentically and quintessentially German region, Bavaria. While we were sitting in the beer gardens of Munich and hiking the Bavarian Alps to Germany's most famous fairy tale castles, something happened. And that is exactly what we're going to talk about today in our video, taking a glance at leather pants. Don't make me wiederholen. We're talking Lederhosen. Something we've talked about in previous videos is the perception people outside of Germany have of what quintessential German culture is. As everybody knows, this involves pretzels, beer, sausages, and of course, Lederhosen. We've been living in Germany, specifically in the state of Rhineland-Pfalz, for nearing 2 years now, but have spent quite a bit of time traveling all over the country, and this has given us a ton of time to learn about what Germany actually is all about from your comments in our videos, from personal experience as we integrate into German society, and through observation during those travels. And that is how we learned that in particular, in the northern parts of Germany, that is where nearly everybody wears lederhosen daily in their regular lives. Now, while the northern Germans are angrily typing this isn't true in the comments, I will tell the rest of you that isn't true. There is no way that we could learn all the ins and outs of a culture in just 2 years, but in that time we've been going back and forth trying to figure out who actually wears lederhosen and who doesn't. For the most part, we personally had only seen it around Oktoberfest festivities, or we'll see tourists buying a cheap set simply because they are in Germany and they want the souvenir. We have even talked to a lot of different Germans from different parts of the country, and they'll tell us they don't own any, they don't know anybody who owns any, and also they wouldn't even wear a pair. So this led us to believe that we had to confirm that lederhosen is traditional German attire, but have stayed only in that category and are worn only around special holidays or festivals like Oktoberfest, or primarily by tourists. We've mentioned this in other video of ours.
The other thing that Americans may think about when it comes to German fashion is what you do see every day in Bavaria. Lederhosen and dirndls. Just kidding. You do not really see those except for maybe some Americans wearing those at Oktoberfest in Munich.
And on those videos, we received very mixed comments from Germans on the validity of those statements. Some Germans claim that we were wrong, and there are Germans that do wear lederhosen regularly, and others that would confirm that we are correct and Germans don't wear lederhosen. Sometimes these would even turn into arguments in the comments between Germans about whether or not Germans actually wear lederhosen today as part of their regular wardrobe and not just as costume for festivals. Well, we think we finally have the definitive answer on this question for all those wondering if Germans truly wear lederhosen, and that answer is no. And yes. Before I get to explaining exactly what I mean, this video is not sponsored by anybody, no, not even a lederhosen manufacturer, but I would love to talk to one if one is interested in reaching out to us. So therefore, you guys watching this video is the only thing supporting it. Please help us overcome the YouTube algorithm by hitting that like and subscribe button, and go ahead and write in the comments if you have a lederhose. Now back to it. If you watched our German dialects video where we had Germans send in clips of them speaking their native German dialect, you will have seen how incredibly diverse diverse Germany is and historically has been. One thing traditionally German in one part of the country does not mean it is traditionally German in another part of the country. That's why we also start our videos with a disclaimer: we live in the German state of Rhineland-Pfalz, so your experiences may be different from ours. We get a massive number of comments from some people saying this is German and other people saying the exact same thing definitely is not German, based purely off of their personal experiences of what they have seen, and often if they have not seen it, then it clearly doesn't exist. But you can't blame them. Look at early maps of the region we now know as Germany, and you see how up until about 1871, this region was a patchwork quilt of princedoms, kingdoms, tribes, etc., and they all were developing their own cultures, customs, traditions, and of course, clothing. Based on our videos' comments, Lederhosen is not immune to the issue of Germans debating about whether it is part of the region's traditional clothing and whether or not Germans still wear it based on what they have seen. We even fell victim to, well, we haven't seen it, and based on what we have heard, it mostly isn't worn, so therefore it must not be common to wear Lederhosen today in daily lives. And that is why we said this incorrect information in our videos. However, we recently took these two trips to Bavaria, specifically Munich and the Allgäu region, and wouldn't you know it, we actually saw people casually wearing traditional German clothing referred to as tracht. Now, outside of waiters at restaurants and beer gardens, we didn't see people wearing what you are probably imagining. Instead, what we saw in Munich mostly was guys wearing just the pants portion without the suspenders and just normal t-shirts, socks, and shoes. When we were hiking in the Alps, we saw essentially the same thing: Lederhosen without the suspenders and their regular modern hiking shirts and hiking boots. When I saw this, it really suddenly made sense to me, as this seems like a modern way of continuing the tradition of wearing Lederhosen, and I thought it actually looked really cool. Now, I'm not saying that this is the only way that it is still worn today, just purely what we saw. We've had many of you comment that you will still see the full traditional tracht in Bavaria at things like weddings, sometimes in small villages at church every Sunday, maybe the first day of school, and of course, there are still some that wear the traditional outfit as part of their regular clothing rotation. We're hoping to be able to visit those places in the future where we may see that and experience it for ourselves, so if you have recommendations on where we should specifically go that this may be the case, leave those in the comments. Bavaria does have a reputation of being a lot more conservative and traditional from the rest of the country, which definitely plays a part in the fact that they still hold on to these sorts of things a little more than the rest of the country, it seems. But also, there's the fact that Lederhosen just isn't necessarily part of the culture in other parts of Germany. The Lederhosen people typically think of literally comes from the southern parts of Germany and Austria, so it is a larger part of their culture than for Germans in the north, for example, who also have their own unique traditional clothes that may look more like this. One thing Germany does not seem in short supply of is different regional cultures and traditional clothing that goes along with it. It is just Bavarian culture that is often the most recognizable outside of the country. If you look at a map of Bavaria and then the region Americans occupied after World War II, they almost perfectly line up, and you will see why this most likely is true. Americans were in Bavaria and sending postcards home of where they were, and therefore this became what Germany was in American minds. Now, I love unique traditions and traditional clothing. I feel like traditional clothing is a great way to identify and learn about various cultures. These outfits often show what makes them unique and special. Where we are from in the southern US, we have a pretty iconic form of traditional clothing that you have probably seen in the movies and may wonder if we actually wear it, just like we wonder if Lederhosen is actually worn in Germany. I'm talking about cowboy boots, blue jeans, cowboy hats, the whole nine. And for me, this wasn't something I wore every day, but I would go to rodeos to go dancing or for my high school senior portraits. But definitely don't get me wrong, just because I didn't wear it every day doesn't mean that people don't wear this every day. In fact, it is fairly common that some people do, and like a lot of our family, they do dress like this exclusively. Or much like we saw guys in Bavaria just wearing the Lederhosen shorts with tennis shoes and a t-shirt, you will more often see guys wearing boots and jeans with just a t-shirt and maybe a ball cap. A somewhat unrelated but still pertaining to traditional clothing note, a secret fun fact about me as well is that I play the bagpipes. And because of that, I have no problem with wearing a skirt. I mean, a kilt and the whole outfit that goes along with playing the pipes. So since we have lived here for nearly 2 years, are working hard to learn as much about the German culture as we can and learn the language, when I saw that tracht really is worn regularly, that it has been adapted for modern fashion as well, and since I thought it looked really good, while we were in Bavaria, I kind of got caught up in the atmosphere and I found a tracht shop just to try some on for the experience. It ended up being an amazing experience as a store clerk helped me for quite a while finding the right fit and taught me about the outfit while only speaking 100% German the entire time I was in the store. After trying on multiple pairs, shirts, and socks, finding some I liked, and feeling like in a way I had earned it since I was able to do it all completely in German, I ended up walking out with my first set of tracht. Well, but without the shoes, a jacket, hat, or charivari, it starts to get expensive so fast that I had to stop somewhere this time. Now, there were a few things I had never realized about lederhosen until I was trying them on for the first time that I was kind of surprised by. Like, for one, something I should have realized is that you kind of have to break them in. For those that maybe don't realize or know, lederhosen literally translates in English to leather pants, and they truly are completely made out of leather. Depending on how much you want to spend, different leathers will be used and some may need to be broken in more than others before they get really comfortable. Real lederhosen are also like cowboy boots in that they can range in price dramatically and can range from 100 euros on the lower end up to thousands of euros for a really fancy handmade buckskin set. Naturally, I went with a bit of a lower end option and like a cheaper pair of boots, I'm definitely going to have to work to break them in a little bit more than an expensive pair probably would take. As you can see, I also went with a short variety, but you can go for a long pant style or an over the knee, which is known as a Knickerbocker lederhosen, which is something else I didn't know before going into the shop. I also wasn't aware that it is traditional to have 2 side pockets, 1 hip pocket, and 1 knife pocket. In much of the southern US, it is also very common to carry a knife in your pocket or on your belt. With a Scottish kilt, it is common to wear a knife in your sock. So of course, lederhosen would also have a knife pocket. And the final thing I wasn't aware of with lederhosen was how they actually work. When I first tried them on, I had no idea how to button them up because there are 6 buttons over the front of my lederhose. 2 are to pull the 2 halves of the pants together like a fly on jeans. 2 are for the flap on the front to close up top, and 2 are for the suspenders. Honestly, the lady in the store got a very good laugh at me when I didn't take notice of all the different buttons and I mixed them up, so she had to teach me how to wear them. But it's a cultural experience and exactly what I'm looking to learn living in a foreign country and amongst a different culture. So lederhosen is traditionally menswear, but there are also nowadays lederhosen for women as well. Traditionally, women wear dirndls, and Aubrey has not gotten one yet, so that will be saved for a future video, I am sure. But I want to continue learning about Germany's amazing culture, so let me know in the comments all of your bits and bobs of information about lederhosen, how to care for them, what fun facts you have about them, or what kind do you have. To see who made it this far in the video, the random question of the week is, do you like eating tomatoes raw and on its own? Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and we will see you in our next video.
Cheers.
Most famous state in one... Wait, maybe I should scoot to the middle now. Now, back to it. Now back to it. Still see the full traditional Bavaria...
Almost. What do you think about that?